Hello, are we live? Make sure this is all good. What is up, everybody? We are back. I haven't done a live stream in a while, so gonna get this thing going. Going over Dolphins free agency. We did one at the start of free agency, like right after the first day. Dolphins have made a ton of moves since then. I've been making film breakdowns, so we'll definitely get into all this. Hopefully, I don't. Connections a little bit all over the place, but we'll see how it ends up going. What's up, Garrett? How you doing? So I would say and we're going to talk about how like this free agency will affect the draft. We'll talk about some guys still available that we can go after because it's still very early in the process. You go on Twitter and you see people kind of switch their tunes after every single move. I think it's still very early in the process. So that's kind of like my big thing. But Dolphins kind of were like bargain shopping, I guess, this free agency period. I actually think usually this is the best way to go, especially with the position you're in as the Dolphins. I don't think you're in position to go after any big time free agents. You got to, go for maybe the lower risk, high reward type moves, guys that are cheaper options. Maybe there's some injury history with some of these guys. But I'm going to kind of rank them, I think, based on like the value you got from their contract, impact I think they'll have in sort of like need fit within the team. Oh yeah, nice hats. Yeah, those are my favorite Dolphins hats. But yeah, so I would say overall, I think it's been a solid free agency period for the Dolphins. Definitely not mad about it. I know people usually want the big splashy moves, but I actually think the last year's free agency period and this free agency period are kind of like the types of free agency I think you do. And then this just shows like how important the draft is. I think you got to really build your team through the draft. And that's where the Dolphins, like this draft upcoming, is so important. It's the first one in a while where you actually have a lot of draft capital. You haven't had many picks over the last, handful of seasons. This draft, you're going to have 10. So it's going to be, it's huge for not only the short term of the team because there's multiple spots you still have needs at, but also the long term, like, or it's even more important because you haven't had many draft picks in recent times. It's not like you lost that many people in free agency this year. Like the biggest name you lost was Holland, but Holland, struggled for you last season. So there's kind of, those types of things. This lighting makes you look like a different person. Yeah, I know. I actually have like natural lighting coming through the window this time. Last time, I feel like my quality looks so bad in my other room, but now we have natural lighting coming through. I have the window behind the setup here, so it should actually, I don't have to like do any, BS to fix it. So I would say the best addition the Dolphins have had, just based on like value, impact, and need. Number one, it's probably the number one, just based on all three of those combined, is James Daniels. It was the biggest need for Miami, even coming off the Achilles. Even if he doesn't play where he was last time he played football, like to that level, he's still a huge upgrade. He's a great scheme fit. He kind of will help change, a little bit of physicality up front. So that impact will happen right away. He should be healthy by the time the season starts. Yeah, and then also just a good value contract. You get him very cheap. You look at him compared to like the other guards in the market, the guys who were like kind of based around him like talent wise, the Will Fries, the Aaron Banks, they got double what he got. So like I don't mind them, even though he's coming off the Achilles. You take that shot because his contract was so much cheaper, and that was kind of the position that you were put into. My working theory is the free agency makes it seem like they've decided to take their lumps financially and build through the draft. Yeah, well, they kind of did it last season too. Like last season, they didn't break the bank. They did a little more. I would say last season was more of like they attacked the middle tier of free agency. While this one, they did like a little bit of attacking the middle tier, but more they went towards like the lower end guys that fit what they did schematically, and still found some like potential upgrades at certain spots. There's still positions like I would say still you have one guard spot that's a huge need. Defensive line room, obviously, really you only have Sealer and one other body, and then you need another corner for sure. So those are kind of like the three positions: D tackle, guard, and corner, where like you definitely need like starting level players there. And now I still think like personally for me, I would go after like one other offensive lineman in free agency, like that's where I would go first. Actually, I would go after like a Shaq Mason, little bit of a veteran. You know, I think he's like 31-ish, so a little bit older. But Dolphins have got younger this free agency, so which I thought was a big need. So it's not like they need to get like super young every year. The rest of the O-line's already pretty young. I don't mind taking a 1-year rental type player at the other guard spot. And that allows you to go to the draft where the draft is super stacked at D-line. I'm still, even though you don't have any D-linemen, I'm actually not as concerned about D-tackle as some of the other spots because last year the Dolphins put very little resources into the D-line. It was Sealer, and then they paid like everyone else like near the minimum, like Benito Jones, Deshaun Hand. They got Calais very cheap, which obviously they got lucky there. Maybe Calais even comes back. Who knows? And then there's also just like, I think they could do that again. I've talked about it. Weaver has a very good job of scheming stuff up for the defensive tackle group compared to the rest of the groups out there. And the draft is so stacked at defensive tackle that to me, I'm going to go and get super cheap D tackles in free agency. You don't need to break the bank there, I think, at that position. And in the draft, like you can take multiple to end up getting multiple stars. Shaq Mason is washed. I know he wasn't as good last year, but I think the Dolphins scheme is like the most O-line friendly scheme in the league. I know, like, trust me, we've had offensive linemen come here who were supposedly horrible at their last team, and they look 10 times better on Miami. And I think Shaq Mason is like the ideal scheme fit, and I still think he would do like much better than what the Dolphins had last year. Like not even comparably close. That's how bad Miami's guards were last season. And I don't think like Mason would be that expensive either. Let's see. Defensive line, yeah. I'm not that concerned about D-line. I know we don't have bodies right now, but I really think they can easily fix that room. I think schematically, that's where Weaver gets like, he helps out the most is the D-line group. Last year, we barely spent at that group. We were still fine. And the draft is stacked. So even though we don't have bodies, I actually feel like we can flip that around pretty quickly. I feel like every time I do a mock draft, obviously mock drafts, you take it all with a grain of salt. But every mock, it's like you're in the middle of the rounds and D-line is by far best player available every single time. And there's like 4 or 5 options I would take, you know, in like the 4th, 5th, every single time. Brewers priming. Yeah, oh yeah, dude. Tennessee fans were talking about Aaron Brewer as like he was the worst player to ever touch the league. And then he came to the Dolphins and he's just a perfect scheme fit and, you know, absolutely thrived and was much better for Miami. Similar to Connor Williams, the Cowboys fans talked the same about him. Dolphins, it's actually so easy to play a line of the Dolphins scheme as long as you have movement skills and can run block a bit. It's a dude. Honestly, when we just moved and like we had to, you know, obviously that patches, there was like something wrong with like water pressure stuff. Had to, you know, dig into the wall, but dude, when I saw Eichenberg resign, just scrolling through Twitter was so funny. Honestly, probably the only positive part of the Eichenberg stuff was just seeing all of Twitter's takes on it because it was absolutely hilarious. People saying like the season's over from signing Eichenberg. Obviously, I don't want Eichenberg to play at all. If Eichenberg's like your 4th guard, your last offensive lineman on the roster, I think that's fine. That's what most last offensive linemen look like. If you look at other teams, their Liam Eichenbergs are at the end of the roster. They're like the guys that barely make the team, or they're like, you know, they don't even make the team. They go somewhere else. If that's what Eichenberg is, that's fine. But the problem with the Dolphins is Eichenberg has been either a starter or like one of your first guards in, which sucks. You may want to get to this later, but which position has Jay failed to address? For me, it's obviously corner. Yeah, I think so. I think I definitely think corner was one I expected them to go after. I think D-line and corner, I expected them to at least throw a body at so far. As I talked about, I think D-line, they can even though they have nothing, I think they can take care of it pretty quickly. And I actually am fine if they do not want to go corner at this point because I don't really like the options. All of them are like super aging veterans that probably want more money than you can give. And a lot of them are injury prone. So I don't mind if you go into the draft and like corners like your one big need, and then you just like you take one in the first 2 rounds. I've talked about it. Like if Will Johnson falls you at 13, great value. I'm all for taking Jahdae Barron at 13 as well. I'm probably higher on him than most people, and he would be a great need for Miami. So corner is one of those spots where like I expected it more early on in free agency, but now at this point with what's left, I don't mind that being like the one position you just go after in the draft. Left guard. Oh yeah, Larry Borom. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's the only free agent that the Dolphins have signed that I haven't made a video on yet. He's next. Don't worry, I have the film. Dude, watching his film was a chore, I'll tell you that. Now, he's another one that I think will do better in Miami because of the scheme, but man, was he god-awful in Chicago. He was... And Chicago's offense did him no favors either. Like, and Caleb Williams holds onto the ball a long time. Like, a lot of the sacks he would give up in Chicago wouldn't happen in Miami just due to the how quickly you get the ball out. He's not good. I can at least understand the vision because he's big and athletic. He has the physical tools Miami looks for. I just wish he played, like, for his size, if he was a better run blocker and more of a mover in the run game, I'd actually might like the move because I think you can get away with protecting Dolphins offensive linemen in pass protection with how they, jump set people. And I think he would do better at guard than tackle because he played mostly tackle in Chicago. But man, for his size, like he just lacks power and anchor, and that bothers me. And his aiming points, his angles, you'll see it all. Like I'll probably do it on, because tomorrow I'm going to do the mock draft video. So Tuesday I'll probably do a film breakdown on him. I'll get into it deep then, but most of the plays are not positive. FA, not GA. Yeah, that's what I figured, Dundee. I was a little confused for a second. I think the draft is what they're bringing on with maybe 2 picks. Yeah, you definitely need starters in this class for sure. You need instant impact players, and then you also need some, obviously, to hit in the long term. Yeah. Honestly, yeah, they might not even make it. I don't know we haven't seen what their... We haven't seen all the contract details yet. That's where I'm a little iffy on some of them, is some of the people that we've re-signed or signed, we haven't seen contract details. Today we signed a punter. Honestly, I obviously don't watch film on punters because like, what does that even entail? But clearly his stats are much better. Like punter might have been the position I had the least, like when the special teams unit was on the field and the punter was on the field, specifically Bailey, I never had faith that there would be a positive play. At least when the offense was on the field and you had some horrible player on the field like Eichenberg, I still had faith that there could potentially be a positive play. I never felt that way with the punting unit. So, hey, shout out Ryan Stonehouse. I had a feeling once, he got cut, because like I saw people being like, wow, I can't believe they cut him. And then I know our new special teams coach was from Tennessee. So I've had a good feeling that could happen. And yeah, Robbie, you talked about Uwuzie. He has the injury history. He has the potential to be cheaper. He is the type of guy the Dolphins could be interested in. And the Dolphins have been taking some Tennessee guys. Last year, Brewer. This year, we got Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, the punter. We have taken a snap at there's still some other guards too, like Dylan Radins from, Tennessee if they want to go after. I do think there are some guard option potential. I know some of them assigned, but there's still some older ones, some bigger name guys that they go after, like Will Hernandez, if they wanted to go in a slightly different direction than expected. Yeah, our new special teams coach is from the Titans. Borom was Chicago's Eichenberg. We now have 2 Eichenbergs. Yeah, pretty much. I know what you're saying. They're definitely different players. Like I would say the difference with Borom and Eichenberg is at least Borom has like physical and athletic upside. Like he's at least big and can move. Eichenberg's not really big or can move, and he's also just bad. Borom's bad, don't get me wrong, but at least there's some upside with Borom. But I don't like either of them, obviously. And honestly, I don't even know if all these guys will make their roster. It's still obviously very, very early. David Long, yeah. Jonnu, even technically, former Titan. We didn't take him from the Titans, but he did start the Titans. Can we expect more than 3 starters in the draft? If you get 3 starters in the draft, that's a good draft, especially if they're like year 1 starters. Travis went, yeah. I do think Borom. I probably think he'll do both. Like he'll probably, if he makes the team, he'll be probably a guy that plays both tackle and guard. I doubt like more like a swing. Like at least he has versatility as a backup, which is a big thing for a backup that you can play multiple spots. Yeah, that's one of my least favorite signings. I would say, okay, so first, in terms of value, need, impact, best signing is James Daniels. Even with the injury, I still think it's the best signing. It's a clear upgrade in terms of need. The value was great. I think his impact will happen right away because he should be ready for the season. Yeah, really solid signing. Now, probably the second best signing, which is actually my favorite signing, favorite move, and like I think the best value they got. The fact that they got him on this deal, was actually very surprising to me. Was Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. I actually think it was one of the better moves in free agency I saw, period. Like there was a few moves in free agency where I'm like, damn, that was good value. And that doesn't happen very often. And that one was Nick Westbrook-Ikhine for Miami. And he was the exact type the Dolphins needed at receiver. Now receiver is like, that was like really what you need. Now you don't need to take a receiver in the draft. You still can if it, ends up rolling that way. But bigger body, like I think like 6'2", 210-ish. He gives you a little bit of versatility with like how you can use him in like the run scheme that other guys didn't have. I've seen him insert on, like dual blocks in the C gap and stuff like that. They motion him around, sometimes having him as like a lead blocker. And, I'm not saying he's like elite in that area, but he at least is capable of it more so than what you had in Miami. And then he was just a touchdown machine. I believe he had like 30 something catches last year and 9 of them were for touchdowns. Can be a vertical threat. He's not going to blow you away with his speed, but he understands like how to get open on vertical routes. Good hands, reliable, tough with the ball in his hands, which I think that was a big key for the Dolphins. Is they got cheap, they went cheaper, they got younger, which was huge. They definitely got younger, like at all the spots. Like they pretty much got younger. And then they also got more physical. A lot of their guys that they signed were pretty physical players, and I think that was a big notice for them. A couple of them still injury-prone guys, but some of them not. Like I think we'll get to KJ Britt from Tampa Bay. Like he's not the greatest player, but I think it's a depth signing. And when you compare him to like you basically swapped him with Anthony Walker, and Walker was more injury-prone. He was older, and they're both like run defenders. And I think Britt was even more like physical, and he's obviously still younger, and there's still potential upside there. Yeah, new room. I moved. That's why I haven't been doing too much when it comes to streaming lately, but now we're all settled. Yeah, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, I think the second best signing, but my personal favorite signing in terms of value, need, and impact as well. After that is where things get interesting. I feel like I go in a few different directions when it comes to the best signings. Because after this, it becomes tougher to rank because I think Daniels and Nick Westbrook are clearly the top two. Then after that, I think it kind of comes down to either Melifonwu, because he's probably the best player, but you pay, 1 year, $4 million. He's not getting the minimum like some of these other guys that you're probably signing. He's probably going to start. I actually think his film was best, but he comes with a little bit of an injury history, so that's there. I think KJ Britt, I don't think we've seen his contract details yet, so that's we don't know the value. I imagine it's not too much. And I think, he'll probably be like right now he's your third linebacker with Dotson. We re-signed Dotson, which I hadn't talked about, which was a good re-signing. Makes me feel, decent about the linebacker room. You can still definitely upgrade there in the draft, like if you want to, and take linebacker early. But with Jordan Brooks, 2 guys that could potentially fight for a spot in Dotson and Britt. Well, Dotson, I think, is a better coverage guy, and Britt is a better run defense guy. They give you some physicality. And then I think the other signing that I would put in that area is like Pharaoh Brown. Not because I love the player, but because I think he's just a better blocker than what you had last year. Hopefully he ends up being your third tight end. That's kind of what you want to see. He's 30, but he does have that blocking ability, which is so huge for what they had negative blocking when it came to the tight end position last year. And Pharaoh Brown at least plays with physicality. So after that, I do think third I would put Melifonwu just because he's the best player of the bunch, even though he has the little bit of the injury history. And safety was a huge need, and he's such a good scheme fit. Like, how everyone's been hyping up Nick Ifeatu for the Dolphins in the draft? Melifonwu was like the free agent version of Ifeatu. Like big, like they have the big frames, tall, lengthy, Melifonwu also tested off the charts. He's a former corner. He can play safety. Both have similar like strengths and weaknesses. Obviously, Emanori was, going to go earlier in the draft. But Melifonwu was like, if you wanted to get that free agent option, so like really good scheme fit. He can play in the slot, match up on tight ends, that type of thing. Dotson as Britt is inside linebacker 2 for the season, not going to end well. Oh yeah, I agree. It's not like the ideal, linebacker units, and it's still going into the draft. You can upgrade that, but like with where the Dolphins are, like you're gonna have to, take a hit somewhere, and it might just have to be your linebacker unit because you still have to add to other spots. Definitely would be nice to upgrade, but you still need corner, still need a guard, still need some D linemen. So the Dolphins are definitely not going to be perfect in every area. Which group would you double down on? D tackle, tight end, guard. Probably D tackle in this draft. Draft's very good. Do you think we'll already see? Yeah. I mean, yeah, Will Johnson, Jade Barron. I've heard, yeah, Britt is a run stopper. I made a video on Britt. Yeah, he's for sure. He's more like a Landon Roberts than David Long. Play style wise and physicality wise, and build wise, I think. Even though they're all run stuffing guys. I've come to terms this is a rebuild without Ross saying it publicly. I don't agree with that. I think they're definitely, I feel like they're doing what they did last year. Like it's not that different from last year. I don't really think they're trying to rebuild necessarily, and it's still very early. I feel like it's still March. So still very early in the process. And obviously you're putting a lot more emphasis on the draft. That's my question on Justin. What's your projection on it? Any chance he turns into Jalen Hurts? No. He doesn't have the processing. He's not as smart as Jalen Hurts. He's more athletic, might have the stronger arm, but he's not as smart as Hurts, which is what gives Hurts the better chance. You think they still go safety in the first? Probably not. James Daniels is a right guard. Ooh. Any hope in Cam Smith being better in year 2? Well, it is year 3. And honestly, I don't have a ton of hope. He's just been so injured. We haven't even seen him really play. But yeah, some signings here. Definitely Ashtyn Davis. I think I like it as a depth safety move. Not horrible. I liked him a lot in the draft. Hasn't been terrible. As a depth guy, could be worse, could be better. Don't have too many problems with that. The moves I don't really care for, I made a video on Alexander Madison today. I don't care for Madison as running back. I think as RB3, it's fine. I'm not going to obviously be pissed about that, but it doesn't really move the needle for me. Same with Zach Wilson. I don't necessarily care for that move too much. I'm not hugely negative about it, but it's not one of my favorite moves. Yeah, and then we talked about Larry Borom earlier. Obviously, that's probably the one I would put last. Last year, Gray restructured down the entire roster. We didn't restructure anyone so far. This is the complete opposite. We can walk away from literally everyone after this season without crazy dead cap. Yeah, but with everyone that we've signed, I still feel like we have to do some restructures. They just haven't happened yet. I was more so talking about the free agents we signed. Even though we restructured last year, we never broke the bank. We still went after cheap options. Literally, probably the only ones that were I don't think we most of the guys were under single digit per APY. So I still feel like it was the same strategy. And then obviously this year, the reason they did so many restructures, they did a lot of extensions and stuff last year, is because those guys were on either ending contracts, and there was a lot of big contracts that Dolphins had going into free agency. this year, the only one that was really going into free agency was Javon Holland because they made all of those moves last year. So I don't know. I still feel like they had a very similar strategy going into this year, taking bargain deals. And I don't think the restructuring moves are done. I'm pretty sure we're going to be under the, we don't know the exact cap numbers, but I'm pretty sure with all the signings, I would be surprised if we're still above the cap, especially because we have to sign draft people. So yeah, corner, D tackle, definitely still need to be addressed. We haven't addressed it at all. Could be a draft thing though. We haven't been really able to wait till the draft to address things in recent years because we just haven't had draft picks, but maybe they'll be able to do that this time around. I'm still a big best player available person, so hopefully you can at least put yourself in a position where you can take best player available, but who knows. The additions of the Chargers worrisome to you? What do you mean, Samuel? Like the people the Chargers added? I don't know. I know they added Mekhi Becton, but I don't have too many columns. Steelers he could. I'm surprised Mekhi Becton went for. Yeah, I expected Mekhi Becton to get more. But I do actually think that's probably was what he was worth because when I watched Becton, I was not as I know he had a breakout year, but it still wasn't as good as I expected. Could Zach Wilson become the next Geno Smith or Sam Darnold? Probably not, but that'd be nice. Players they added. I feel like did the Chargers even add that many players? I just remember seeing Chargers fans complain that they hadn't added that many. I know they signed Becton, but I haven't really looked too much in the Chargers stuff. Yeah, I mean, a couple free agents I still like Shaq Mason, Dylan Radins, if they wanted to go in the guard direction. Who are some other available free agents? I want some defensive linemen, but it doesn't look like there's a ton that are super great at that position. A lot of aging vets. I would like to bring back some people. Nope. Let's see. Nah, I don't know. I'd have to look at. It's so hard to find an actual list of available remaining free agents, and I haven't seen the most correct ones. Not all these are up to date, which is annoying. If they wanted a stud nickel, they could bring in Mike Hilton, Rasul Douglas at corner. I think Asante Samuel Jr. is it's intriguing, but man, he has a big injury history. He's small, struggles to tackle. So I'm not sure I would go in that direction. I think I might wait until the draft until I go after corner. Yep, I would bring back Benito. Yeah, it's not a thing they definitely need to do, but I wouldn't mind having Benito Jones back. Chargers re-signed Tar, yeah. Becton Harris. Oh yeah, I'm not a big fan. Honestly, I wasn't a big fan of either Becton or Harris, but that was from a Dolphins perspective. I do think Becton and Harris both fit what the Chargers do. But I think they pay Najee like 10 mil or something. No thanks. And Becton's like a horrible scheme fit for Miami. How does James Daniels compare to Robert Hunt when he was in Miami? I would say, I mean, they're different players. It's gonna be tough. I think Daniels will be, if Daniels comes back fully healthy, they're around the same level of player. And no, I think Tyler Booker is also a horrible scheme fit for Miami. He's not a bad player. He's a pretty good player. But I would go after different guards in the draft instead of Tyler Booker. Tyler Booker just has no range whatsoever. He'll move people though. Yeah, the Chargers did sign Deshaun Hand. It's not a bad signing. Deshaun Hand's a solid depth rotational guy. Why would Calais or Armstead want to come back to Miami? I mean, I don't know. I don't expect either of them to. Personally, I don't even really know if I want Armstead to come back. I would be down for Calais because I don't think it'd be that expensive, but I don't know. Still very early in the process, so I mean, some positions you're good at, like you don't necessarily need to add a quarterback or a running back or a receiver. You could, but you don't need to. O-line, you definitely still need to add to. I would add to tight end for sure as well. I think you need to add an all-around guy offensively, but you're pretty similar on all sides of the ball at this point. Like, obviously, D-line is taking a little bit of hit, but edge you should be better at just based on getting people back healthy that you didn't have play at all last year, like Phillips and Chubb. Linebacker group is about the same, maybe a slightly bit better. Secondary is worse, but we can still add to that group. Yeah, I think looking at the draft right now, at least, still a lot of the options are the same. I still think just because like it's still going to be BPA, I think the Dolphins are still going to go after who they think best player available is. Now, sometimes need and positional value will come into play as well, especially if things are close. But like if someone falls like unexpected, like there's always like a player that ends up falling unexpectedly. Now, if you're in the right position to get them, that's another thing. But sometimes that player that falls unexpectedly isn't a huge need. Now, do you take them? Personally, I would because I think it's the best strategy in the long run. But if you do, then there's corners. Top of the draft, Will Johnson, I think, is the name to know if he's there. Then I think after that, Jahdae Barron. I think they would really like Jahdae Barron. I think he's one of the most impressive players in this class from like a football intelligence standpoint, and he's super versatile, great scheme fit. And I wouldn't be surprised if they love Siobhan Ravel. We know Greer is not afraid to take a player that has an injury, and Siobhan Ravel is one of the better players in this class at corner. I wouldn't be that surprised if that happened. And if they wanted to go D-tackle, I wouldn't be surprised if they went after a big boy like Kenneth Grant or something like that. Should the Dolphins play Malik Washington next more? Yeah, I think he'll play a decent amount. I think right now he'll probably be your wide receiver 4, technically behind Westbrook-Ikhine. Like him and Nick Westbrook-Ikhine will be like your next wide receivers up, but they both have very different skill sets. So like they'll both kind of be your wide receiver 3/4, depending on how you want to use them. But it'll be fun. I'm a big Malik Washington fan, so I hope that he gets to get some fun work next season. But yeah, definitely wouldn't be shocked if it's D-tackle or corner. But I do think they could still go in other directions depending on how the board falls. Is Shaquille Griffin washed? Yeah, I don't think he's been very good lately, but I actually don't know. Round 2 to 4? Yeah, I can go over some corners around 2 to 4. Yeah, so I think like round 2 is where you start looking at like the Trey Amos, Ole Miss corner. I think he's going to be a guy Miami would like just from like his build, his athleticism, his sort of coverage versatility. I think they would like Trey Amos, Ole Miss. He'd be a day 2 guy. Benjamin Morrison, Notre Dame corner, very good player, but he's coming off like a shoulder injury. So you never know. Dolphins could really like him. That's some like early day 2 options. Maybe Azrai Thomas from Florida State if they want like a long press cornerback. And then there's a lot of other just good guys out there like Quincy Riley. I really like Jacob Parrish from Kansas State, feisty nickel corner. Then there's some other guys like Noel Williams from Cal, another aggressive physical guy. Knows how to play, jam and press. Pretty fluid guy, good ball skills. There's Mac McWilliams, a little bit of an undersized guy, but he has inside-outside versatility. Comfortable in zone, but he gets aggressive with his jams and press, quick feet, throw some fake jams and all that good stuff. So yeah, there's definitely corner options, and I think they're going to be looking at corner. I still think they're going to be looking at safety at some point in the draft. You don't really technically, if you look at it's really hard to look at safety compared to because last year, you're obviously going to look at Holland, and you're going to see Holland is like a better player than what you have in the safety group, but Holland was really bad last year. So it's like, will safety technically be an upgrade compared to what you had last season? Even though you don't have the most talent in that room, it's kind of tough to say. I would like to take a linebacker in the draft at some point, whether it's early, mid rounds, late. I think we released DeBose. Did we? I didn't see anything about that, unless that just happened. But who knows? Yeah. He the Nick Westbrook-Ikhine signing is kind of, potential end for him. Also, Ryan Stonehouse. Ryan Stonehouse might be one of your better signings. Obviously, he has some great stats. And also, I saw a thing, where was it? He obviously had high averages, but yeah, he had he almost hit 20 miles per hour running on a punt play to save a touchdown. Pretty impressive. Actually an underrated move. I think people so that people have a understanding. Wait, what was I saying? I'm sorry, I was reading something. No, but yeah, Ryan Stonehouse is not a punter because I think being punting is an underrated facet, and Dolphins could not flip field position at all. No. Look how many positions you just named, Ryder. When exactly do we draft our starting left guard? That's my point. We are getting our starting left guard in the 4th. I mean, I feel like there's a misunderstanding. We were already, I was already expecting this going into free agency. You weren't going to fill every hole in free agency to begin with. And it's not, and free agency's not over yet. The season's not, this is why I'm just saying it's so early. Even through the draft, even after the draft, there's still potential to potentially fill holes, whether it's a trade or, someone unexpectedly gets released and you can make an upgrade. There's still a lot of ways to, my point is, it's just way too early to say the season is over. People are already giving up. It is March. Once the season rolls around and we have the exact same problems, then yeah, I'm going to be worried about certain positions. I was already going to be worried about certain positions regardless. But to me, if I was drafting the team, I could find you a starter in the 4th round. But who knows? You never know. Maybe the draft, they get lucky this year. This is the first, that's why I'm saying the draft is so important this year, because we haven't had picks in such a long time. Last year was the first time we actually had more than 4 picks, and still wasn't that much. It was only 6. And they still found some, impact players, but they took some guys like Patrick Paul. They took a guy that was going to be more of a year 2, year 3 impact rather than an instant impact. And, Chop ended up being an instant impact. You got some impact from some other later round guys like Malik Washington. But you got to hope they draft well. Will they? Probably in certain areas, but not enough. All I know is our O-line was the worst in the NFL, and after the first wave of free agency, we were even worse. I don't think our O-line's worse. I mean, losing Armstead is kind of the biggest thing. But clearly we got better at guard, just signing James Daniels alone. And it's not like we were expecting to sign a tackle to get rid of, to like go over Patrick Paul or Ashtyn Jackson. So I don't really look at the O-line as worse at this point. I'm not saying it's like way better or anything, but I wouldn't look at it as worse. This Dolphins O-line just needs people that can run block, and that's what James Daniels can do. It's also what Patrick Paul can do. He can move, and he can potentially move other people. Do you see the Will? I don't think Will Johnson will fall. Unfortunately, I think there's a chance he's there, but I would guess not. Yeah, I've heard about Champ Kelly, and he might be the reason we signed some guys, because he was actually with Chicago when they drafted James Daniels and Larry Borom. So I wonder if that was the reason we ended up signing them. James Daniels is incomplete. I mean, I guess. Didn't you want James Daniels, Scotty? I thought he was like one of the guys you wanted the most. Someone said that Liam Eichenberg's contract is worse than having the Dolphins since SeaWorld. Who is on our O-line as we speak? Yeah, Aaron Brewer, James Daniels, Ashtyn Jackson, Patrick Paul. Those would be guys that I think are circled in to start, unless Armstead comes back. If Armstead comes back, then Armstead over Paul. Right now, those are like, you have 4 positions like with starters in it. You don't really have a left guard currently that I would have penciled in as a starter, though. You wanted Banks or Fries? Yeah, but like, did you see the contracts they got? They got overpaid like crazy. Borom is not a starter? Oh yeah, he's definitely not a starter. He might not even make the team. He'll probably make the team, but you definitely can't rely on him to start. Are you taking Will Johnson for sure if he falls? Yeah, most likely. Yeah, maybe Becton for his contract. Yeah, Becton got a cheaper contract. He was just a really bad fit for Miami. Wynn's still out there. I think a team, like, if there's one thing to say about Greer, is he doesn't seem like a person that panics. You can disagree with him as a, his evaluation, but I don't think he ever really panics. Like, it's still very early in the process. That's my whole point, is people are literally, it's March 16th. Things can change. Not saying they will, but like, things can definitely change. But yeah, we also re-signed some people. I like bringing back Tyrell Dodson. I like bringing back Quinn Bell. Good depth option at edge. Can drop into coverage. Can play the run. I like, tendering Kohu to what they did. Good move. Don't like bringing back Eichenberg, obviously. I really hope, we haven't seen the contract yet, but I really hope it's for the minimum. And honestly, I hope it would be awesome. If it was for the minimum and he didn't even make the team. That'd be sick. Who else we bring back? I like to bring back Elijah Campbell. Special teams, we need that. I think he's a solid depth safety. They brought back Jackson Carman. I think he's just a camp body, so I'm not too worried about that. He's also a very bad player. And they brought back D. Eskridge, which I don't mind. I don't know if he'll make the team either, because we kind of don't have a lot of room at receiver, and we could still always add there. But I don't mind that. Wynn is a free agent? Yeah, Wynn's a free agent. Pretty much all the Dolphins' interior line were free agent, other than Burr. So CB in the first D tackle, in the second Eichenberg starts left guard, all right. Seriously, are we expecting a starting left guard in the 3rd or 4th round? And we put that rookie next to Paul. Oh my god. I mean, that's a possibility, but also, could we not just like end up signing someone like Shaq Mason, an aging veteran that could start at left guard? Like, that's a possibility. Or Brandon Scherf. I'm not saying they're going to do that, but that's not like that's completely off the table. And they could still potentially draft a guard on day 2 or something like that. I don't think, as I've talked about, I'm not super worried about D tackle, because I think they can get a lot of good D tackle rotation. Like, you just need guys that can rotate and be in a nice rotation. So I'm adding people, like I would add 2 in free agency. They're like cheap. and then I would draft 2, maybe 1 on day 2, and then the other ones you can get a couple on day 3. Honestly, that I think can be a part of rotation because this class is so good at D line, man. It's absolutely ridiculous. The thing I like about Eichenberg is his ability. Yeah, I've seen that. Everyone's favorite thing about Liam is that he'll draw a flag from the other team because he just pisses him off. Keon will be the swing tackle. Keon Smith does have a chance to be like a swing tackle. I don't know though because he is coming off the injury. But Greer did talk about him in the end of the season press conference, which I think says something. I'd rather much have a 1 to 2 round guard and a round 4 to 5 round D tackle than the other way around. Yeah, probably in this draft, I get that. I don't think they'll draft a guard on round 1 though. Round 2, I think they would be willing to. I want Win back. Yeah, I wouldn't mind bringing Win back. Just adding a bunch of guards to the room and let them just fight it out. Honestly, add as many guards as possible, so it just lowers the chances of Eichenberg's chances of making the team. Hard to believe Eichenberg benched. Did he bench 32? I actually do kind of remember him benching a lot, huh? Yeah, that's why whenever I see bench numbers, they always seem so off to me, like based on film. Like people always have way different numbers than I expected. So I remember, yeah, that's a big reason why I don't put too much stock in bench numbers. You know what it is? People with shorter arms typically end up benching better, and Liam always had pretty short arms. But he does not play strong whatsoever. Thoughts on Josh Gray? I don't think I've watched him. So I don't know. Let me check. Oregon State O-line Joshua Gray. I'll check him out. Let me write it down. Where's my guard list? Oop, sorry. Joshua Gray. I'll check it out. Why doesn't Greer value RB or O-line? Well, I think they value RB. They like RBs. O-line, well, when it comes, I don't think they value guard. I think they do value offensive line. I think, and it's not even just a Greer thing. I actually think it's more of a McDaniel / just the Shanahan scheme thing. They think that they can get away with not having the greatest guard play just due to how they're used in pass protection. And I've talked about, like, I don't need our guards to be demons in pass pro. You really don't. Like, they just need to be okay at it, and you can be fine. Like, look at Brewer. Brewer is not a good, like, in Tennessee, he was one of the worst pass protecting centers in the league. Comes to Miami with how their scheme set up, with how they jump set, how they use play action. Brewer was not a problem in pass protection at all. But Brewer got to really shine because he's great in space. He's great as at reach blocking in the run game. You just need to bring in guards that can run block. James Daniels is step 1. Now, if you get another one, that's kind of what I'm looking for. I don't think McDaniel has any say in the line. I believe it 100% Greer. Really? I think it might be the opposite. Because to me, the O-line is such a Shanahan type O-line that it feels more like a McDaniel thing to me, where they value an athletic center, and then they like to get super long, big athletic guys out at tackle, and then they kind of just ignore guard. Because, like, before McDaniel showed up, we drafted guys like Robert Hunt, stuff like that. I don't think the Dolphins would have drafted a guy like Robert Hunt if McDaniel was the head coach. But it's probably just both. It's a both thing. I think they're just very much on the same page about how to build a team. But at least they went out and got one guard that can start. Would you trade if we could get our third round? Would you trade? Would anyone trade Jalen Wright if we could get our third round? I don't think that would happen. But I do like Jalen Wright. I actually have good. I think someone's in the comments today on my Alexander Madison video. They expect him to be RB2. I don't think Madison will be RB2. I think he'll be right. I think he's going to be a solid player for you. Really, the struggles he had last season towards the end were mainly because of blocking. James Daniels. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm a fan of James Daniels. Good player. I think a huge upgrade, and definitely I think James Daniels is the best all-around signing the Dolphins have made, just based on value, impact, need this offseason. Would you add Mayer from the Raiders? Yeah, I've said this before. I think Mayer is the only player that I've seen that's potentially available in the trade market that I would trade for. So I would be down to trade for Mayer because he's a good scheme fit. Young, so upsides there. Dolphins need to add younger players, and he would be a very good complement with Jonnu and fit right in like a glove into the offense. Also, I'm pretty sure I believe Champ Kelly, the Dolphins just added as I can't remember his exact role, but I believe he was with the Raiders when they drafted Mayer. And the Dolphins added James Daniels and Larry Borom, who were with Chicago, who were drafted by Chicago when Champ Kelly was there. The running back group this year is great, underrated. Yeah, I wouldn't even say it's underrated. I think most people know it's pretty great. It's definitely a good group. I wouldn't mind taking a running back on day 3 somewhere. Are you comfortable with Patrick Paul, or do you think it will be a weakness? As people know, when it came to the draft, I was not a big Patrick Paul fan, at all. It was probably my least favorite pick. I do think he played better and looked better than I expected. I still think there's still weaknesses to his game, but he did end up in the perfect place in Miami, because he has some struggles in pass pro when it comes to, technique and stuff like that. But the Dolphins make life in pass pro pretty easy with how they do they don't really have very many true pass sets. So I think with the situation Miami is in, I would be more comfortable having Patrick Paul at left tackle than, say, us missing out on some other position. If the Dolphins were in a position where you can upgrade at left tackle, then yeah, I would go for it. But I don't think the Dolphins are in that position to potentially upgrade there, because that would mean leaving out, getting a better corner, or, missing out on maybe another starting offensive lineman or something like that. They wanted, yeah. Oh, I was a big Ifeatu fan. Ifeatu didn't even really get to play last year because he got injured, which was unfortunate for them. Yeah, Hendrickson's too much, and he's older age. I wouldn't trade for anyone that has a big contract. That's why the big thing with Mayer is he's on a rookie contract. I'd be down to trade for anyone on a rookie contract if they fit the scheme, and would get a day 3 pick. You think we end up re-signing Agba? Probably not, unless some injury happens. I think unless something happens what happened last year with I don't think we would have re-signed Agba if Barrett didn't just retire during camp, or right before camp, whatever it was. Let's see. Ooh, nope, not what I wanted. But yeah, overall, Dolphins went bargain shopping. I think it was expected. They got more physical. They got younger. I'm not saying it's the greatest free agency haul ever. I still think they could still add. But I like that they got more physical at a lot of spots. I would still like to add another starting guard. I think if you add another starting guard, I think you can go into the draft and get some D tackles, and you can still find cheap veteran guys. And then corner will be a need for sure. You definitely need to add like a starting caliber at corner. Are there any tackles that can move to guard in the draft? Yeah, I think a lot of the tackles are potential guards in Exile, especially a lot of the first round guys. Like I think Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks Jr., Armand Membo can all three of them. I think depending on what team they go to, could be tackles or guards. I also see a few other guys, like I think Wyatt Milam will play guard at the next level. Donovan Jackson, I think, can play both, but is probably more of a guard. Then the rest of them are more tackles and guards, but I'm sure some of them could play guard if needed. It's an F for agency. Damn, Scotty. You'll get there, Scotty. You'll see it. I mean, I don't think it's a great free agency, but it's definitely not an F. No, the Eichenberg contract was never released yet. Oh yeah, Savaniah is a good one too. I just have Savaniah already written in my guard section, but yeah, he did play tackle at Arizona a lot. He's another one for sure. Connerly, I think Connerly is a tackle. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of guys that I think could end up making a difference. Ray Zabel, he'll probably be gone. I could see Zabel going in like the first round actually at this point. I'm a big fan of Marcus Bowe as well. Yeah. Oh, the Freedom Clash just wasn't very good. It was good at certain spots. Like if you wanted a starting guard, you could get one, and the Dolphins got one. Other than that, it wasn't a strong group. Other than like there was a few other spots that I were certain are kind of strong, but yeah. What position is your wild card in the first round? I'm gonna say linebacker because I feel like I still think like Jahad Campbell or Jalen Walker could potentially happen. Because I feel like people are expecting either corner, D line, O line, maybe safety. I still would take Tyler Warren. I ain't gonna lie. I really like Tyler Warren a lot, and yeah, Tay Rowledge is not another decent option. All we talked about for 3 months is trenches. We signed 0 D tackles and Daniels, Eichenberg, Borom, and Carmen. How is free agency not an F? It's March 16th, I would say. Still very early. I think the only thing that surprises me is they didn't sign any D tackles, but I still think, like I've said the point about T tackles a million times. I'm actually not that worried. If there's one position that like out of those groups that I'm not worried about, it's D tackle. I still have some worries about O line. I still have worries about corners. I think you can need to like upgrade at like safety linebacker. I think D tackle, even though they don't have people there, I think they'll be fine. Walter Nolan, Walter Nolan has some, I think, character concerns. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, he would be great value at 48 as a player. Is he a tackle in our scheme though? I don't know who you're talking about. What, Dro? Which one? I missed the comment. Sorry. Are you talking about Savaniah? Because I would say he's a guard. Elwood, we're talking crazy now. Best guard in the draft to me is Donovan Jackson. I agree, Robbie. I actually agree. I think Donovan Jackson is better than Tyler Booker, and I think Donovan Jackson would be a beast in Miami. Telling you right now, none of these guards you're naming will make it to 48. None of them. None of the guards I just named will make it to 48. I agree, like, a lot of the top ones won't. Like, obviously, I don't think Donovan Jackson will be there, but none of them? You think what? I just named like 10 guards. You think 10 guards are going to go before 48? Yeah, Donovan Jackson's a stud. He won't be there at 48. He's going to go first round. I would not be surprised by that. No. He'll for sure be on. Warren. Yeah, I still love Warren. I would not be against taking Warren. As I'm saying, best player available. We're trying to build this long term. It's not like that. I mean, I think the Dolphins are kind of in the middle of the pack right now, and a good draft can kind of change things for you in the short term. But also, I think you kind of still need to look long term when it comes to this team. Just go in BPA. My fears there will be a stud guard at 48 and Guerrero won't pull the trigger. He might not. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. If there was guard, like, I think there will be at least a guard or two that's decent at 48, and I don't know if they'll take him. Donovan, Savvy, Ravage. I think Donovan will not be there for sure. I think Savvy and Ratledge could both very easily be at 48. Not guaranteeing it, but I think guaranteeing they'll be gone is something that's just very premature, because I've seen guards that are on their level or even better than them go later. Like, usually there is a run, like, usually guards don't go in the first round, like, at all. Like, they very, like, usually maybe one or two. And then there usually is a run on guard in the early second. But then after that, like, I've seen, like, I remember last year there was some guard, like, who was the guard last year? There were some guards last year that we were thinking were second round players, like Christian Haynes. People were thinking about for the Dolphins in the second. Cooper Beebe, and then both of those guys went third round. So, like, I think guards is one of those positions that is not seen as like a premium spot around the league. And now teams might draft them earlier because people are starting to get paid in free agency at that spot. But I don't know. Guards fell farther last year than I expected, so I'm not going to make that same mistake again and just think no guards are going to be there at 48. Like, I think, like, Wyatt Milam, who I mentioned, I think he'll be there. I don't even think the Dolphins should take him if he's there. I think there will be better people probably. Unless he's best player available, then take him. And then obviously there's going to be guys that are like potential tackles / guards that will probably be gone. The guard market has shifted. Yeah, but it shifted last year. Like, guards got paid a lot last year too. And they still didn't go like crazy early. And I don't think teams are like looking at Miami at 48 and thinking like, oh, we're picking here at 39. We got to take one because Miami's going to take one at 48. The wall. Oh yeah, there was a had to like break open the wall because there was like the water, like there was, because that's like behind that wall is like there's a shower. There's like a water issue happening. What kind of years did Haynes and BB have? I don't know what Haynes had, but BB started at center for the Cowboys all year. And I think he was pretty solid. Like, I think he started a little bit slow, but ended up having a pretty solid year for the Cowboys. Would you try and fit Ursary or Belton into guard to kick out if necessary? Yeah, I think those are both two guys that play guard. I'm not a huge Belton fan. I think Belton's a little bit of a later option. Ursary might not make it to 48 either, because I think some teams will have him as a tackle, some will have him as a guard. And didn't he? I'm pretty sure he tested well, right? I feel like he might go a little early, but he's a good player. That I think some teams will see as a guard. You see guys like Gunnar Helm or Mason Taylor being available in the 4th or 5th. Mason Taylor, no. Gunnar Helm, maybe. Like, I know he was injured when he tested, but you never know. I don't think Taylor will, though. But I'm a fan of both. I were gone only because I'm tired of hearing the complaints about him. Can't put fullback or Facebook fullback. I said fullback or Twitter without saying his name. That is true. Honestly, that was another reason I was just like, I hope he is like 100% gone. Even if he was like end of the player roster, I'd rather just have him be gone because we're just going to hear only about Eichenberg, even if he never played a snap. Best O-lineman in the draft is Immenbo, and he's there at 13. There's a shot, but I think it's unlikely. Miles Frazier or Jackson Slater, day 3. Yeah, those are definitely some guard options, especially Slater. I don't know if Frazier will be there day 3, but I do think that's a better spot for him. Some later options. Will you be live all days of the draft? Yes, probably. The only way Greer can save himself if you draft Membo at 13 play right guard and moves Daniels to left guard, then you have no line. So you're saying one player can be the difference. Scotty, you were just talking about it as like it's the end of the world, but one player is going to change it all. What if they just sign that one player in free agency? There's still some decent guards left. That's what I'm saying. It's too early. What's good, CB? Borom-Ikhine. Oh yeah, Borom-Ikhine is a nice later on option at corner. Offensive line or defensive line first round? It just depends who's there. I still think a lot of positions are on the table. I'm still team BPA. I still feel like you can make some moves. Like I don't think you're done completely signing people. But yeah, I guess I would go, to answer your question, if it's just O-line or D-line, I would go O-line. Even though I don't think that's what the Dolphins will do, just because I think the D-line class is deeper. Because I think you can get like impact D linemen on like early day 3 still, like in this class. It's so good. Top 5 players for Miami at 13. Okay, top 5, let's say, in no particular order, Armand Membo, probably my favorite O-lineman for Miami. Tyler Warren, I'm still Tyler Warren. I love him as a player, love his fit. Even if you have other needs, I'm still top 5. I would say Will Johnson, big need. And just one of the better players in the draft. And I'm trying to keep this realistic too. At least semi-realistic. I don't know if all those players could be gone potentially. But I'm not going to say like obviously the top guys that will be gone for sure, like Carter or Hunter. I would throw Mason Graham in there if he was there as well. He would be a top 5 option, but I don't think he's going to be there. So, I'm going to throw a safety in there. I'm going to say Malachi Starks over Nick Emmanwori. I know some people are Nick Emmanwori over Malachi Starks. I think Starks is just a better player, like a better football player all around. I think Emmanwori is good, don't get me wrong, and I think he's a good scheme fit. I just have him graded lower as a player. I still think he's a little bit stiff. He's obviously very explosive, but he's stiff, like when it comes to like changing directions and stuff like that. I think he can man up on tight ends. Like he's obviously fluid enough to man up tight ends, but I think there's some problems opening your hips. Maybe when you get matched up on receivers and stuff like that. But other than that, like good cover guy, very smart in coverage. But for his size, I wish he was better in the box, like versus the run and stuff. Like I don't think he's a very because he's got great size and athletic. I don't think he's a guy that like really looks to come downhill and hit people that often or make tackles. And he's not a great open field tackler as well. And I think Starks, who had a slight down year for Georgia, was just playing out of position. They played him as mainly a nickel. But years before, when he was playing as a deep safety, he was much better. So like he can play nickel for you, but like he's a, free safety type. That's, you got to put him there. Yeah, new place. Can you explain to me what this, I think, yeah, Armstead, he's just deciding whether he wants to play. So he brought down his basically he brought down his contract to the minimum that you get paid. So we got all his savings there. And then we'll probably, if he does want to come play, then we'll probably do some sort of new contract for him. And if he retires, he retires, and then that doesn't really change anything for you. Yeah. And then there's other people, like, I feel like after those guys as realistic options, after that, you can talk me into a few different options. Obviously, I'm super high on Jahdae Barron if they want another DB thrown in there. Then there's like the D tackles. Like, I like the top of the D tackle group a lot, but I feel like 13 for me is just slightly out of range for a lot of them. Like, I think Mason Graham will be gone. Obviously, he would be great at 13. But I think after that, like Kenneth Grant, who people want a lot, to me, it's just a little early. Like, I like Kenneth Grant, but I think there's just going to be other guys I like on the board more. And I'd rather just take another player that I like more and then take D tackle later when there's still great options. Like, you can take Alfred Collins on day 2, a great, run defender from Texas. There's Omar Norman Lott, TJ Sanders, Darius Alexander. Then there's other people like Aeneas Peebles, Ty Robinson, Jordan Phillips, CJ West, Jamari Caldwell, who I love a lot, JJ Pegues, multiple other names, even some guys that I haven't even watched yet that I know people are pretty high on. Do you like Benito's tape? Benito Jones? Yeah, I don't mind. If Benito Jones comes back for cheap, I think they should definitely consider that. Riley Mills. Oh yeah, Notre Dame, right? I watched the Notre Dame. Oh man, I watched both the Notre Dame D tackles recently. I can't. I forgot. I didn't write. I don't have my notes here on them. I can't remember exactly. I remember not thinking. I wasn't like, if they were day 3 options, I liked both of them. But I can't remember my exact thoughts. Will Hernandez. Yeah, he's another guard name that's out there that's a starter level player. Wouldn't say he's the greatest fit for Miami scheme wise. But he does bring a little bit of a bully mentality. And like, I definitely wouldn't be mad about it. Do you like Derek Harmon over Walter Nolan? Yeah, especially with the like some of the character concerns with Nolan. And Nolan just has some inconsistencies on film, and Harmon just got better and better, and he's also like has some high upside to him as well. So I'd probably just go Harmon. Yeah, Will Hernandez also has some health problems. That's why I probably would go in a different direction. But there's still options out there. There's still guards out there. The guard is one of the positions that still has like people out there that could potentially play for you. Some of these guys, bro, got like Will Fries, Dan Moore, Aaron Banks, Patrick McCarry got a decent amount too. They all got a lot of money. And yeah, Jack Kaiser, he's a decent late round option too. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, this draft is super important. I think it's the most important draft in years for Miami from like short-term value, because you have multiple spots that you definitely need to fill. But from a long-term perspective, like you really don't have a lot of like contracts coming up from like draft guys for a while. Like you really don't. Like other than like Achan, who out of those 2 draft classes really would you even have to pay money? And it's not like Achan's going to get crazy amount. He's a running back. Until this recent class, like Chop will get paid, but he's, you know, obviously only 1 year into his deal. So like you really got to start nailing on some of this stuff because you don't have a lot of, you need to get younger and better. And I do think that's probably the biggest positive in this free agency is you definitely got younger, and at least more physical. But yeah, any final questions? The problem that I am tired of hearing this draft is very important. When will the Finns get to where that every draft is not so important than usual? I think the reason this one's so important compared to the other ones, and like the reason I'm saying that is like obviously every draft is important, is that the Dolphins just didn't have draft picks. Like they rarely had draft picks over the last 3 seasons. And when you look at their roster, and like last year they were the oldest team in the league, that's why this draft is just very, very important. I asked earlier what free agencies that is on your friends wish list. Yeah, I think I answer it. I think I answered that one like earlier, right? But some of them like Shaq Mason, Dylan Radins, I think, Dylan Radins. At offensive line specifically, those would be guys I'd look at. I'm not really looking there. I'm trying to find D-line. Because there wasn't a ton outside of that I'm like super interested in. Because I didn't love the corner group. I would just like to bring back some, like if they just got Calais back at D-line, I think they could find some people that knew would be fine at the position. Yeah. Raekwon, no thanks. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time.